Now, one of the things that's really, really, really important is when it comes to collaboration, it's important to understand how you want to collaborate, right? How are you showing up in this collaboration? And what do you want out of this collaboration? Hey, leader, welcome to another episode of the Key Leader Podcast, where we share nuggets of wisdom with you to help you become unfuckwittable. Today, I'm bringing you straight into a conversation that we actually have during the 90-day group coaching experience. Right now, we just launched this. And today there was a particular question that I really think that you can benefit from. Now, there are many, many different questions like that I think that you can benefit from, but this particular one, right? And one of the beautiful, powerful entrepreneurs asked, should I collaborate or should I not collaborate? Like, what are my thoughts about this? And also the other women that were in that session, right? And I thought it was a really awesome question because I really don't think that we talk too much about this. And also, I feel that there's this sort of negative, connotation when you say focus on you first. So I wanted to bring this forward so we can talk about this and really highlight, tips that you can use to be able to navigate how to collaborate at your best. And on top of it, this particular entrepreneur, this question also came because the person, or at least one of the people that she might want to collaborate with, is a friend. So there's another layer of emotions and attachments related to this particular question for her. So to collaborate or not to collaborate, what should you do? What shouldn't you do? Now, you already know. As a key leader, you can do what you want, right? You are free to do what you want. But I do want to share some tips with you that could really help you throughout, if you're struggling with this particular question or next step as well. And I'll also tell you what really works for me at Kiconnect. Now, one of the things that's really, really, really important is when it comes to collaboration, it's important to understand how you want to collaborate, right? How are you showing up in this collaboration? And what do you want out of this collaboration? A lot of times when, we don't really have an idea, but we think it's great to work together, what tends to happen is we just get started, we kind of brainstorm. And then after the fact, we're like, I actually didn't want that, or I don't really agree with that, or I don't really like that, right? A lot of times entrepreneurs tend to collaborate together. And so you have the question of, okay, whose product or whose service or is this from? How are we going to do? Also, something that I notice a lot of times, especially when there's that extra layer of friendship or closer connection, is we immediately want to also save the other person, right? You want a win-win situation, but what you don't want, at least that's my opinion and my expertise as well, working with different entrepreneurs from different ranges, is you want a win-win situation, but you can't shoot yourself in the foot. You can't only want for the other person, or let's say it better, you can't just help the other person with their bank account, but then your bank account stays at zero or your bank account doesn't grow. That's not really a win-win situation, right? And so you really need to think about what is it that you want and how do you see the collaboration for yourself? Now, if you are going through that question and you start to notice this sort of like, hesitation, can I say that? What if the other person doesn't like what I say? That you start to experience a block that has to do with a rejection, then you already know that that's something that you need to start to work on, right? Because I am here to give it to you straight, and I'm here to tell you that you are allowed to say what you also want. It's not just about the other person, and it's not just about saving the friendship. That's why in the beginning, you need to be extremely clear about how you want a collaboration, what you want, and what works for you. Can you come to a consensus between the two? Of course you can. Can you um, sort of settle and have something different than what you originally had in mind? Of course you can. You're going to go into, some sort of negotiation conversation. And so of course, but what matters is that you don't cross your boundary of what is important for you, and that you don't end up going into a collaboration together, and then mid collaboration you start to get this shitty resentment feeling, all because you didn't set the structure, you didn't understand what you truly wanted. And so that's step number one when it comes to collaboration. Another topic that I feel that we don't really talk about is which company, if it's two entrepreneurs that are going to collaborate together, whose company is this service from? Right? You see a great opportunity, or somebody else sees a great opportunity and they want to do it together with you. Who is the client going to see as the person or the company that's going to deliver this service? This is very, very important because it can be extremely confusing for the client if you have two entrepreneurs, two of them collaborating, and two of them are pushing for their organization. It's extremely, extremely confusing. The client wants to deal with one organization, one face, one entity that they can trust. And so this is related back to step number one, is that you need to understand how you want to provide this service. If you want it to be through your company, fantastic. Then that's the brand that the company deals with. Especially if clients are contacting your company, then you are bringing the business in, right? And so one of the things that you can do if you want is, and that's what we do at Kiconnect, I love sales. And so I have no issues with that, right? But if I'm doing the sales, I'm bringing in that client, I'm doing all of that nurturing of that relationship, then that's part of the work that Kiconnect is doing. And so Kiconnect should also earn for that, right? Understanding that the client trusts Kiconnect or the Kiconnect brand already. And so I would want, if there's a collaboration, and maybe we're going to do other types of collaborations as well. But so far, what we've done is that when we do collaborate, it's Kiconnect that is at the forefront. It's Kiconnect that communicates with the client to the point where our key specialists, depending on what position they have, what type of projects we do, they also have a Kiconnect email so that when the communication is between them and the client, again, it's one organization. Now, you can also collaborate where the two of you, for example, or the three of you, or the group is going to create maybe a different entity or a service completely, separate on its own. You can do that as well. But again, it always starts with step number one, is to understand how you want to work with others. What do you value and what is extremely important for you? Step two, how do we want to communicate and how do we want to cater to the client, right? Now, I can tell you, for example, for me, it's important when we collaborate with other entrepreneurs who are also key specialists, is something that I love to do is I love to highlight them as well, right? Yes, we are one organization. We show up as Kiconnect, but I love to also put their logos in the presentations. Why? Because they're also very proud of their own organization, as long as it doesn't conflict with the message that we bring across to the client. Then me personally, I have no issues with them, right? I have no issues with doing that. Now, I can tell you that I learned the hard way because I did a collaboration once, and I remember I didn't know exactly what I wanted. I wasn't very clear. And if I'm being very honest with you, I think that I was also a little bit afraid to say, hey, we are showing up as Kiconnect. And so I know that you have your branding and everything, but right now we are going to show up as Kiconnect, and this and this and this and this and this is allowed and this is not allowed. I wasn't straightforward with that. And I remember we were setting up and doing everything, and one of the business owners ended up coming into the room, and instead of promoting Kiconnect or having one face, I came with my card, and that the collaborator also came with their card. And I started to feel that sort of shitty feeling like, Konya, really? And of course, they're very proud. And I would love to promote business for them as well. That's why we're collaborating. But I felt bad that I wasn't clear. And, now there was a misunderstanding. It didn't lead to anything, but it was internally not a good feeling that was happening. And my ego did not like it at all. Right. And so that's that internal struggle that I want you to avoid, not to get into by not being clear with what you want. This is also your business, right? And you're allowed to say what you want and what you don't want. There are lots of different opportunities. And if this particular person whom you want to collaborate with doesn't want to take your values into account, again, it's not just all about you because it's a collaboration between the two of you or the three of you or how many other of you. But your voice also matters. Your value also matters. And if it's not you as the business owner, entrepreneur, as the leader, if it's not you stepping up for your organization, then nobody else is going to step up for the organization. Also understand who does what, right? Very fast, especially if there's opportunity there, people want to go to a 50-50 split, right? A lot of times out of fear, again, of saying, hey, you know what? No, we're going to start like this. And then gradually we're going to build up. No, but what if I say that? And what if I hurt that person's feelings? And what if they don't feel valued? All of that is in your mind. The reality is if you built this and you want to collaborate with somebody, either it's because it's your own idea or a person wants to collaborate with you, you have to build trust together. Especially if this is the very first time that you're going to be working together, you want to see how it goes, right? Just like when you approach a relationship, if you give everything at the same time, you're going to get that shitty feeling if you're not sort of getting also what you want. And that's going to start to hurt you on the inside. It's like you're drinking poison. Don't do that. Again, you have to stand up for what you're building. You have to stand up for your own company as well. And so you're allowed to say, this is your cue that you're allowed to do this. You're allowed to say, hey, you know what? It's going to be the first year that we're going to do this. How about we start with an 80-20 split or a 70-30 split? We're going to build together. I'm going to teach you what I know. And then from there, next year, we can see and we can renegotiate. You're allowed to do that. But if you have that insecure, part of you, it's going to be difficult for you to have that conversation and you will struggle with collaboration. So that's also another thing to really take into account. Who is going to do what? What does your positioning, your company's positioning, your positioning as the owner and that person, what do you all bring to the table? What is intangible? What is tangible? And what would be a fair split based on what work is going to be done and how your companies are positioned in the market? And today I actually used the example of conferences, for example, hiring speakers. You don't only hire a speaker just because you like the person or you know a little bit of their story and you think, hey, you know what, their story could be great. That's a big part of it. But a good speaker brings in audience. Every organizer wants their people to leave their event saying, oh my God, I love that speaker. That speaker really connected. I really connected to their story. I got so many insights from them. Every organizer wants that. No organizer wants to hear like, or that the speakers were not remembered, or that it was the same topic over and over and over and over again. So, what the speaker brings to the table is very important. How they're positioned is also very important. And you should take this approach for your business as well when you're planning on collaborating with somebody else, right? Don't be afraid to be open hearted and trust yourself that you are going to protect your heart as well, right? Don't get into a collaboration on the other side of the spectrum. Don't get into a collaboration super cocky and like, this is what I do, and I know that it works, and this is it, and I'm not open to doing anything different, because then it's not going to be a win-win situation. And I can tell you, especially as a host and as a speaker, I've had that response a few times where we want to collaborate and doing something different, bringing a different experience, but then the established speaker just wasn't really open for it. And on one end, I can understand, and I shared this in another episode already, but on the other hand, we're really not tapping into a great opportunity. We can learn from each other. And so you need to watch that other side of the coin as well when you are thinking about collaborating together. Right? Now you might ask, like, okay, Ming, but okay, I have the courage and I can have that conversation, but what if that person says, no, I want this? Then you have to tap into yourself and be like, are you willing to go that route? Are you willing to negotiate? What is it that works best for you? If you know that, you're not going to fail in this. You're not going to fail in the negotiation. You shouldn't be afraid of the negotiation, because you know exactly what matters to you. And who knows, maybe that conversation actually leads to something much better. But you need to dare to have that conversation. You need to dare to be the leader in what you actually want in that collaboration. And that's not you coming from a cocky space. That's not you coming in all ego hot and be like, I'm the shit and, it's all about me. No. You saying what works best for you is not you being cocky. You saying, I want this, is not you being cocky at all. You're allowed to express yourself. You're allowed to say as well what works for you and what you want. So that's what I would do when it comes to collaboration. And another last tip that I want to give you is trust your instincts. It's not about what other people do. It's about what works for you in your business. Remember that you cannot only cater to one person's bank account. Yours also needs to increase. It needs to be a win-win situation. But if a 50-50 split works and you're going to be energized, the other person's going to be energized, you have a clear understanding from the get-go of who does what, then go for it. Be mindful of which organization is going to be at the forefront, which organization is going to collect the money, because that's also important. It's going to be very confusing for the client if, they need to pay two different organizations and things like this. But these are serious questions that we actually go through that we don't really talk about. And so honor yourself, be mindful of your positioning, dare to say and ask what you want, and you will not fail in having a win-win situation in your collaboration. I hope that you really enjoyed these nuggets of wisdoms. Don't be afraid to collaborate. Last tip that now I remember that I want to give you is don't be afraid that if you are going to collaborate, that maybe the other person is going to steal what you're doing. When in doubt, stay open-hearted, because remember, nobody can do the thing that you do the way that you do it. Share this with somebody that you love that needs this right now. If you haven't hit that plus subscribe button yet, go do it so that you can stay up to date. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm sending you lots of love energy and power energy so you can go and collaborate with success. Connection.
action. Hey, go, go,